All right, hi, this is Atticus, and welcome to Railway Empire 2 Fundamentals Designs That Work. We're going to now take a look at one I call Just Passing Through. And the first thing I want to do, though, is actually go back. We're on the same map, the same setup that we did for the prior video, the first video of this series. And I want to show you, I did forget to add salt into the system, which of course was super easy. Just plug it into London and everybody's got it. But I also want to uncap these and let them grow. And we'll just see, as we go along, we'll just see how big they might get. So let's put universities in. Didn't have anything in Grand Rapids. That's interesting. And didn't have anything here. Okay. So we'll put universities in all three of those cities and let them grow. And we'll just see how big they get while this one's running. Now, we want to cover a bunch of different designs of three city clusters that can really work. So I thought we would take this area down here. If we look at Pittsburgh, Parkersburg, and Louisville, you've got meat, cloth, and beer. Just what we need. And we're going to do the Johnny Hughes special here. We're going to really, this would be one to use if you wanted to grow one city more quickly than the others and needed to emphasize it for some reason, like you had a task to have X number of goods available in Parkersburg at one time, or grow Parkersburg to a certain size, right? But this is what we would do. So we're going to put a freight station on Parkersburg. And in fact, I'm going to go set this up and I'll come back and walk you through it. And the other thing I wanted to say is purposes of this series, it's not only to just show you the design, I also want you to kind of learn the rhythm of how often and what technique you use for checking up and optimizing your clusters. And so our first one, of course, is what we're calling phase one, just setting it up initially. I'm going to set it up and then we'll talk through that. All right, so I have built out our three city cluster, Pittsburgh, Parkersburg, and Louisville. And you'll notice that I've favored the raw materials that were down this way. I'm leaving these alone because I see more videos coming with more clusters. One down here in Virginia, one up here in DC, Philadelphia, New York, one up in upstate New York, maybe the Boston, Massachusetts, Maine area, that kind of thing, New England. We'll have multiple ones, but this one, we've decided to do Parkersburg as the center of a Johnny Hughes Pass-through Warehouse. Now, for those of you who are maybe new to the channel, or those of you who are new with Railway Empire 2, I haven't done as many pass-through warehouses in playthroughs of Railway Empire 2 as I did with Railway Empire. So let me explain the concept. So we have a three-city cluster here. You can see Pittsburgh, where you can get beer, Parkersburg, where you can get cloth, and all six of the first basic raw materials: grain, corn, lumber, sugar, milk, and veggies, right? So you can get all those. And then we have Louisville, where you can get meat. So the idea is that a train would leave Pittsburgh, a freight train from the Pittsburgh freight station would leave Pittsburgh and take beer that needs to be delivered to Parkersburg or Louisville. So it would start with that in its load. Then it would go to this warehouse, drop off whatever it's delivering to Parkersburg, and then top off with whatever it can grab out of here, from this great big selection of things, run it down to Louisville, drop off all those items, pick up meat that needs to go back to either of the cities in the other direction, come back to Parkersburg, do the same thing, drop off any meat it's got for Parkersburg, pick up whatever it can out of this huge selection of items, and take those back to Pittsburgh. So if we think about this, it's really what we need to do is have a frequency set on the supply of Parkersburg. That would be an easy way to manage how many trains. So Parkersburg supplies actually 7 items. So if we think of that as a supply of 7, that demands a frequency of 8. So that's what I did. I set up trains, and you can see the line. We've got trains that run like this: Pittsburgh, Parkersburg, Louisville, Parkersburg. And they are set to a frequency of 8, which is a supply of 7. A supply of 7 needs a frequency of 8. So we've got the whole thing set on 8. It only takes 5 trains to do that. Now, that's our city to city. Then for the raw materials, all those run directly to Parkersburg. And as I said, I favored the ones over here to leave these alone for future videos. And that also says that what we really should have done, if we really wanted to do this, maybe. But I have a plan. I have a plan as to what I want to do with this. But what we could have done is make Louisville the center of the world. Now, I wanted to make Parkersburg the center of the world because it's in West Virginia, obviously. It's a shame that's not Huntington rather than Parkersburg. But I wanted to make Parkersburg the center of the world, so I did it that way. We could have done Indianapolis, Louisville. If we look at this, we could have done Indianapolis, Louisville, Parkersburg, and had Louisville be the center of the world because it's much closer to all the raw materials that we're using, almost all of them. The only thing that's long distance here are the Parkersburg milk. And I renamed all these stations PARK for Parkersburg, and then the material it's bringing in, so it'll be easy for us to see what's coming in, right? And then all we have to do is start letting this run. Now, you guys see some trains queuing up. We're going to have a bunch of other trains. As soon as I take this off pause, we're going to have some more. Now, you'll notice it's about the middle of December, 1831. So we're starting this basically at the beginning of 1832. Now, let's let this run. I'm going to let this run. Well, you can watch it for a minute, just kind of see it in action. Here's all the trains that are queuing up, and we've got trains going now, running our deliveries. And here's one of those lines that, if I can pause it in time, here we go. Here's a bunch of milk or beer rather, and notice it's all for Parkersburg. That makes sense. First time it looks, it says, hey, I can take a bunch of beer. Parkersburg can hold 8. I'll take 8 to Parkersburg. Let's watch what it does. It drops them all off, and now look what it's doing. It's taking clothes for Louisville. So it says, okay, I've got a bunch of clothes here I can take somewhere, and Louisville can take 8 clothes, so I'm going to take 8 clothes down there. So let's just watch this train. And in fact, actually, let's go look at the second train. See how the second train now is taking a little more beer for Parkersburg, because that's how much it can hold. Then it switches to Louisville. Now it's taking beer to Louisville. And so this beer won't get dropped off here. It'll go on down here. But this train, in fact, we'll watch it. We'll watch the second train come in here. When it comes into Parkersburg, it's going to only drop off part of the beer and pick up clothing for Louisville, right? And then the third train, let's see the third train. All right, he just got deployed. He's got a couple more beer for Louisville, which makes sense. And when he gets here, there should be some items in it. Yes, we actually haven't gotten any raw materials there yet. So he's just going to hang on to his 2 beer, and then he's going to keep going on his little journey, right? So he's going to move on down the road. I got to check my... Oh, yeah. I forgot a couple of signals. I was trying to hold off on all of them until I had everything going. There we go. Now he'll run a little better. There we go. Now he's headed on down to Louisville. And we can see that first train is on its way back. Now look at this. Whole bunch of meat for Parkersburg, right? So he's going to start filling up Parkersburg. The second train on that line, where is he? Oh, I'll bet I reset him. I did. I reset the number 2. So he's reloaded with beer for Louisville now. Number 3 is the one that's going down to Louisville. Let's see what he does. He's going to come down, probably get a little bit of meat. Well, quite a bit of meat for Parkersburg. And notice it's switching over to Pittsburgh. See how this works? And after they get caught up on the beer meat cloth, they'll start doing the raw materials, particularly when those raw materials start getting in here into our warehouse, right? We've got a little bit. Here's one for Pittsburgh, a grain. See, what's happening here is The initial loads are going to Parkersburg. That's why we made Parkersburg the center, because this is a scenario. We're pretending we got a scenario where we wanted to grow Parkersburg for some reason more quickly, right? So everything's coming there first. It'll fill up the warehouse in Parkersburg, and then it'll be freed up. Like here's 2 for Louisville, 2 for Pittsburgh. There's 1 for Pittsburgh, 1 for Louisville, right? You see that? Okay. So over time, this warehouse will have stuff for everybody, and those five trains running back and forth will have mixed loads of all kinds of good stuff. Now, the other thing is, you'll notice here a little difference between this one and the last one is I don't have maintenance on this. The reason being, this is very busy. It's the center for everything, right? You got all your freight coming in there. You got your city-to-city lines coming in there. So we just have a dispatch hall in our warehouse, right? And that means that back here, if we go out to look at each of these, see that maintenance right there? See how we've got maintenance on each of these? So in this model, we would have maintenance out on the field, if you will, right? Out in the field with all the raw materials. And we have maintenance in the city-to-city lines on the ends, because we have to be able to maintain those city-to-city trains. And we also have a dispatch hall on the ends, might as well, because they can, just speed up their processing a little bit. The other thing is, you'll notice there's only 2 platforms at the endpoints, because they don't get as much traffic. They don't get the huge amounts of traffic that this one does. Now, this one absolutely needs the 4. And in fact, you could probably argue that at some point we may want to have 4 for city to city and 4 more for raw materials coming in, right? Or something like that. So if it gets really big and really busy, then we would change that model. So what I'm going to do now, I hope that made sense to you. Now, there's your initial setup. So for this model, our initial setup is think of each of these from raw materials, think of each of them as a 1 and get the appropriate route frequency to get into Parkersburg to feed 1 to each of the 3 cities. And your city-to-city lines, think of it as whatever the supply is in Parkersburg, which happens to be a 7 at the beginning, and use an 8 frequency for your city-to-city, your pass-through lines that pass through the Parkersburg warehouse. And, get your dispatch hall and warehouse here, get your maintenance out into the field, with maintenance also in Louisville and Pittsburgh, and you're probably good to go. So what I'm going to do now is let this run for a bit, and I will come back when we hit 40,000. So it's February of 1832. So let's just see how long it takes, and I'll be back. All right, welcome back. We are just about to hit 40,000 in Parkersburg. And notice the growth rate, fulfillment demand, 99.1. In Pittsburgh, 92.5. It's at 38.4. And then even in Louisville, which has been the slowest one, at 85 and 35. Now, what happens here is that some of these goods, it takes them a while to get out there. So like the corn is a little slow getting to Louisville. So it is not hitting that 100%. And milk, it's just started needing milk, and that's going to take a while for the milk to get down there. So it's not going to have 100%. And you almost never have 100% on anything. But looking very, very good. It does take a while. I mean, the city growth, that oil up there, by the way, is for that salt. It'll fix itself. There we go. Now it's kind of feel better. Now, we're noticing, here we go. We've hit 40,000. We've hit 40,000 in Parkersburg. And we're just real close in Pittsburgh. And as I said, Louisville will be coming shortly. Now, the interesting thing about this model is we can put anything we want in Parkersburg, because all of our raw materials are going directly there, right? The other thing to note, I forgot to mention earlier, is that this particular one is not going to have fruit at all. There's no fruit down here. There's just nothing. There's some way over here, and there's up here and up here. And we could, if we really wanted it, we could run fruit down here, but we're just going to skip fruit. We're going to skip liquor, right, down in this area. So we could make up for that by hauling liquor from here, maybe, if there's exports. And look at that, there are. We could easily do that, and we could talk about how to have, one 3-city cluster have a helping hand with another, right? That's something we could do. But for the purpose of this, we're just going to say, okay, what do we want to put here? We want clothing here. Even though everything's coming here, the easiest one is clothing. So we're going to put a clothing, a fashion industry in Parkersburg. Okay? And we'll just go ahead. Now, you wouldn't do this necessarily right away, but we're going to go ahead and bump it up to the point where it's making 3. That'll make enough clothing for the entire cluster, right? When everybody wants clothing, it'll meet that demand. So there's Parkersburg. Now, the thing we've done now is actually change this slightly. Now we have 8 goods that we need to get to the other cities. So that means we really need a frequency of 7. So before we had 7 goods, need a frequency of 8. Now we have 8 goods, we need a frequency of 7. But we're probably still good. Let's just see. 7 times 5 is 35. No, see that? We need one more train in order to hit that new frequency that we want. So we would adjust our city-to-city line up to one more train. And that's going to automatically set up our deliveries for all 3 cities so that we're moving our goods properly through them. Now let's just look at something. Look at our traffic jams. You see that? We don't have any. We don't. Now there's a lot of trains right through here, but they're moving. Everything's moving. This is lovely. And I've been watching it because I had nothing else to do. And watching the trains, it's just lovely to watch how they come in. They bring the goods for one city, load up, head out to the next one. It's a beautiful thing. All right, so let's just get now let's think about what do we want to put here. We put clothing here. We've got milk. A dairy would make a lot of sense. We're close to the milk, and it's far away from everybody else. The next thing we want is planks, but they're way over here. I think we're going to put sawmill in Louisville, and we'll put a dairy in Pittsburgh. And yeah, I think that'll be the plan. Okay, so now we can do that. So let's put our dairy in Pittsburgh, like so. We'll go ahead and bump it up to where it can produce 3 and feed all 3 cities at the time they need it, as soon as they need it. And now what we'd like to do, because we've got a dairy here, rather than trusting the exchange to provide all that, we would like to set up another line out here from the Parkersburg milk. So I'm going to set up a shunt line. And run it back like so, and give it signals. And by the way, I did have a couple of goof ups on the signals. You saw the one this way, but it was the same thing over here. So we got off to a slow start with this one. It still has done extremely well. So shame on me. But you know, if you play the game, you make mistakes. Well, some of you don't. At least you think you don't. But anyway, you do. All right. So there we go. Out of track 1, so we're going to go track 2, platform 2, and we're going to go into the Pittsburgh freight. And look at that, it's just a beautiful little fit. It just works right in there. Track 2, running full, 28 days. The milk we would need here would be, well, it says 0.4. I'm going to let it run for a bit and recalculate. Milk, we need 3.6, so we need a 4. So a 4 would be a frequency of 11. Is that right? No, 14. So we want this line that goes to Pittsburgh Freight to have a frequency of 14. We're going to put a couple of trains on it, and it'll get some milk from the other side of it. And remember, we're trusting this guy to level up as he sees that there needs more milk is needed. And you could choose, if this was an extremely important thing to you, or if you had a bunch of money, of course we have infinite money, you could choose to buy this and level up itself, because it needs to be producing more at this point, because we're thinking Now that's not really technically true because remember, we've got a dairy here that's overproducing and we don't even have any cities that need it yet, right? So really the fact that he hasn't leveled up should not concern you yet because there really isn't any need to level up. He doesn't have the business yet. All right. So let's let this keep going. We'll go put the ones in Louisville, and we'll put Sawmill in Louisville. Now I don't even have the immigration office research, so we can't even use immigration offices. We will use libraries on this one to make it go faster. And again, you would do this over time, but we're going to bump it up to make 3.2. And then we're going to think about, let it run for a moment, and then we're going to look at the demand for lumber is 4. So we would like to have a direct line. Now, we've already got this loaded up. We've got stuff coming out of here. I think what we're going to do here is just trust the system. So we're saying we need more. We want 4, 5, 6. Right now we need a 6 demand for lumber in our cluster because we need 4 in Louisville and 1 in each of the others, approximately. So a 6 would be a frequency of 9. So this line here needs to be a frequency of 9. 9 times 3 is 26. See, it's going to take a lot more trains to get that done. There we go. It's going to take 6 trains. Okay. That's a long line. So we're going to give it plenty of trains. And worst case, they would just queue up right back here. No big deal. They're not in the way of this other one. They got their own private sets of track and platform to run on. And this guy here, he's got tons stored. So he's already queued up a bunch. So we should be able to get lots of lumber in there. Now, I did that, and I'm not sure I love that. Nope, I don't love that. All right, we're going to connect this track to this station. And I'm going to go back to this line, the one coming out of track 2, this one, and we're going to knock it back down to 3. Okay. And then we're going to set up a train that can do a delivery of 4, a demand of 4 into Louisville, which would be a 14 frequency. Now that's going to be a little tricky because we're going to have to delete some track here and move everybody over one, or just put in another station. And I think we'll just take the easy way out. Now this is on a hill, and it's going to be a little tricky, but I think we'll make sure we can get off here. It should be. Yeah, we'll just make sure it's got a long enough shunt line to get out of the way of the other traffic. And we'll just take the easy way out here and just have our own station just for delivery to that salt. Literally nothing wrong with doing that. It's going to cost us, another maintenance station, but that's about it. And so we'll go here and make sure we can get a line from this station here, which stop that. Let's rename this one. Let's call this one the Park Lumber for Sawmill. Okay. And we're going to go here to Louisville Freight. Out of track 1 running full, and we're going to run our slow little Derwent, sorry. And we need a 14 times 2 is 28. That's tight. We'll run 3 trains and make sure we got plenty. Don't know why number 3 went out first, but it did. Oh, maybe the other two had already deployed the other way. I don't know. I don't know. But at any rate, we should have plenty of lumber coming down here and get this guy growing. So we've got them all growing. We're about to hit 50,000. So I think that's enough of this one. I think you can see what's going on here. We would do the same approach when we get to one more. When we get around 90,000 and we have 3 coming out of here, that would mean that this would be a 9. So we would then want our frequency to be 6 on our city-to-city line, and we could adjust our raw materials accordingly. But this works beautifully. This little cluster will grow and grow and grow tremendously and do very, very well. And let's just take a quick look up here. We've got Toledo is up to 190,000, and we haven't even looked at it, right? We haven't done anything to it. Grand Rapids is up to 187,000. Now, London has stalled on us for some reason. It's at about almost 150,000. And a couple of things to notice. One, the fulfillment's a little low. And we would, if we really wanted to grow it, we would go back and take a look at that. The second thing is we got a ton of cloth and clothing that we could export. And we could leverage that in other places on the map, right? We probably got the same deal here. Yeah, we've got look at this. Got all this stuff we could export to other places. Look at this, all the stuff that we could export to other places. So, you know, we're building these distinct 3-city clusters. We could easily take goods from other cities or from our original clusters and move them out. But that's another video for another day. Right now, let's stick to the idea of building our designs that work. I think you can see that the pass-through warehouse absolutely works. It does a beautiful job of growing cities. And there's one more little tool in your toolbox, another way to look at your city growth, another way to set it up. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you saw something that will help you become a better player. I hope you'll like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join us for our next Railway Empire 2 video. Thank you.